Hi, everybody. Okay, let's get started. Um, Make sure everything is on. You know what today is? Today's my birthday. Today's my birthday, July 2nd. We're 4 minutes in. Um, that's a good time to celebrate, right? We've had a great day today and moving forward with Richard's case. Everybody is reassured that we're not just pedaling in the same place. We are moving forward. Things are really moving forward quickly. And they're narrowing down on El Paso. They're narrowing down on Fort Bliss. And you see that with this release for these MREs. 1.2, what is it? $1.2 million of MREs, 200 pallets full of MREs. That requires a big warehouse, right? That requires a warehouse. Um, yeah, so we'll get into that today. We are at day 2,159 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, building 2479. Building 2479. For those that like numerals and numerics and all of that, tell me what that means, 2479. I'd like to know. I'd like to know what those numbers mean because he was taken down to the arms room in that building, and his life was taken. He fought hard. We have information that one of the perpetrators, the killers, I have to be careful what I say, right? Um, alleged, um, had his mouth bashed and needed emergency dental surgery. So, but Richard's life was taken, and um, there was a lot of, stealing his body off of post and evidence at organ harvesting, evidence of dismemberment and trafficking over to Ciudad Juarez, which is in Chihuahua, Mexico. And the governor right now is the El Chapo fentanyl governor of Chihuahua, Maru Campos. She is the Sinaloa proxy, okay? We have confirmed that because of where she got her money from and all of her associates and cases against the associates that confirm that they are Sinaloa, that she is Sinaloa, and that she's up to no good. And I think Mexico needs to be more afraid of her. And I know the United States, there's plenty there. There's a lot going on in the United States, y'all. There's a lot going on, a lot of arrests going on, a lot of investigations going on. And I think that today was reassurance that that is going on. It's just that the United States is huge and the corruption is huge and the treason is huge. And so it's not so direct as um, e- these cartel leaders, right? Getting these cartel leaders. So, um, but a lot is happening, a lot, and a lot of arrests, a lot of cartel arrests. And you know that because President Trump is expanding Guantanamo Bay. He's expanding it. And so what does that mean? He needs to have court martials, right? He's expanding the courts there. I think the beds 30,000 now. I think he's going to or has already expanded the intake number as 30,000. Okay. So, and Trinidad was already there, Sinaloa, So this is and then you have the treason and all of this, where you have um people that are in trusted positions that have betrayed us. Okay, so that's all happening, and I know um, that there's a lot happening behind the scenes. When you have the likes of Jared Brown in the El Paso FBI, um, eh, having to come out with a post about that connects arrests of stolen goods from Fort Bliss that's connected to Nadal Baem, you know that there's a lot going on behind the scenes because that he was under the control. He's part of the Mormon faction, right? With Connell Wetton. He's part of the Mormon faction, and he has gotten loads of letters from us. He's totally informed. And so for him to come out with that post was just a beautiful thing to see. We're very, very glad. It shows you that there is a tide turning, and that there is a narrowing in. So I want to play a video for you. It's an older video, that music video that I put together, but I think it needs to be played right now. It really does. So let's see here.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Let me play it here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm speaking up for Richard, put respect on his name. Gold Star fan fighting, but it's feeling like a game. They twisting truth, seeing lies in court hall. Spencer playing both sides, let the justice hammer fall. Got the law on alert, watching moves that he made. While he's in it for the money, got the facts in the shade. Recordings drop, now the truth's on replay. It's a legal chessboard, but we ain't here to play. This a knock-knock, yeah, the big broad truth. For every soldier, for our son and the youth. Misconducting the system, breaking down walls, but we're here to rise up, hear our justice call. Got tapes on replay, he's confessing the scheme. Switching facts in federal state court in between. What he say to the judge, what he said to the crowd. In this case of lies, only the truth speaks loud. Fighting whistleblowers trying to silence the sound, but we're armed with the facts and we're standing our ground. For Cruz, just as victims, for Richard we won't rest. Holding Spencer to account, we demand no less. It's the knock-knock, yeah, the big door truth. For every soldier, for our son and the youth. Misconducting the system, breaking down walls, but we're here to rise up, hear our justice call. Got tapes on replay, he's confessing the scheme. Switching facts in federal state court in between. What he say to the judge, what he said to the crowd. In this case of lies, only the truth speaks loud. Fighting whistleblowers trying to silence the sound, but we're armed with the facts and we're standing our ground. For Cruz, just as victims, for Richard we won't rest. Holding Spencer to account, we demand no less. This a knock-knock, yeah, the big door truth. For every soldier, for our son and the youth. Misconducting the system, breaking down walls, but we're here to rise up, hear our justice call.
Okay, so that's how I feel. I think that there is justice is calling. Justice is calling, and you saw that today with the news that broke. I woke up this morning, and um, and well, I woke up this morning. Rob sent me a little picture we made a yard of the month. Our garden made yard of the month. So I was like, "Oh, wow, that's very nice." And then, on my Facebook stream was Jared Brown with the announcement, and, that was so sweet. That was a double, just a good way to wake up in the morning, with this, announcement. And, the thing is that um, normally it would be really hard to detect, um, the connections, right? Not everyone can read, um, what Jared Brown wrote and detect what's going on, right? But we've been doing this, day in and day out, for almost 6 years, and so names mean something to us, right? We've done the investigation. So we can read through and red flags go up. And when I read this, it's like hop out of bed and go do a little bit of research, make sure that um, the connections are what I thought they were when I read it. And what do I mean? Okay, so I have it here and I can show it to you. So here is Jared Brown's statement: former soldier turned contractor found guilty of stealing over 1 million of MREs in El Paso. Well, that was just beautiful right there, because we have been saying that our evidence absolutely confirms that Richard was whistleblowing on all the trafficking, and not just, and I don't want to say, in addition to the child sexual exploitation, in addition to the cartel infiltration, in addition to the child trafficking, gun trafficking, ammunition trafficking. They were robbing us blind. Anything that was not bolted down, they were stealing. They were, even vehicles and stuff. And you can see, that by the whole what happened in Afghanistan, right? On the return from Afghanistan, President Trump said, "Why did you do it that way? Why didn't you bring back all of our equipment, at least our night vision goggles? Why did you leave them there?" It's, these, uh, the big boy knock, right? They're getting caught. They're getting caught in their thievery and their theft, and then they warehouse all of this stuff. Think about the logistics that it takes just to move 200 pallets of MREs. Okay, that's a lot of logistics, and then you have to have a warehouse to put them in. And so when we saw what this announcement, we knew, okay, this is their territory, Fort Bliss is our territory. We're allowed to steal. It's one big cartel unit there, conglomerate. And so we knew that this was connected to our son's case. And then when you read more, um, you know, and I love what he wrote here, I love what, and I can't zoom in. Um, this, is a message that, you can't do this, whatever. So, and this is just from such a dirty office, right? That has allowed the most vile and vulgar, violent crimes to be covered up, to take place. Because don't forget that these are Connell Wetton for example, is a rogue FBI agent, absolutely in line with Maru Campos and Chihuahua. Okay. Um, Absolutely part of the Mormon faction there in Nova Casa Grandes and Colonial Juarez and um, Colonial Dublin and all. He is very involved. And he's been there for a long time. So I've got to give credit to Jared Brown for doing this. I think President Trump has finally reached him. I think uh, um, the message is finally getting out that they actually have to do their sworn duty, right, as an FBI agent. So Kash Patel has gotten the message across to him. So yeah, this is really good. But then, um, let me see if I can find the. Let's see. Yeah, this is it. If I can get in close. Okay. So the four, okay, so he only mentions Joseph Lavar Davis, um, as, like the one that pled guilty in this. But there were four. There were four, and you have to hunt them a little bit, right? You have to hunt for them. They don't name it. And guess who's at the very bottom? Even though he has a B, he should be at the top, if you do it in alphabetical order, right? He should be at the top because when I saw John Broberg, I was just like, oh yeah, okay. There's not that many Brobergs um, in El Paso. Okay, this is Western Frontier Trading. Okay, this is Western Frontier. This is Nadal Baem's. Well, you know that it is right because, like I said, this is their territory. Richard threatened their territory. Richard threatened their operation. President Trump threatened their operation. They were under audit. They were under audit. The border was being shut down, and you're talking about loads and loads of money. They hated President Trump, and they hated Richard. So then you see that they conspired and colluded politically and criminally to destroy Richard because he was whistleblowing. So they have to smear him or whatever to make his complaints not trustworthy, right? Not reliable, right? So they had to collude together, conspire together to put something together. And we have all the evidence for that proves that that's exactly what they did. And they did that, of course, to President Trump with the Walmart mass shooting. It was orchestrated, it was conspired. And we know that because explain Mayella. Explain Mayella, okay? And there's more. You can say explain Nadal Baem, explain Mayella, explain all of this. What's explain Nadal Baem's daughter in the DA's office, in the federal prosecutor's office, these connections, these very close connections with these families. So this is not something I'm making up. This is not a tinfoil hat. This is a conspiracy. It is a real, documented, confirmed conspiracy of these people that targeted President Trump to sabotage his 2020 reelection and to silence the whistleblower that confirmed that President Trump was right all along, and that was our son, Richard Halliday. So, and it really doesn't matter how you feel about President Trump or how you feel about Richard, the evidence confirms it, right? The evidence confirms it. And today was a great example of that. So, who is John Broberg? Who is, all these names? It's the same people, right? It's the same group of people. It's just amazing. But let's focus on John Broberg and go back. Let's see if I put it up. John Broberg is the brother of Eric Broberg. Eric Broberg is y okay, so when all this happened, remember this day, let's say this day when Nadal Baem walked into this Dollar General, which is right beside Western Frontier Trading, the warehouse, okay? Western Frontier Trading is a warehouse. And it's right by a party center, which is important too in all of this, but um, I'll explain that later. But this is the Dollar General, and this is some snapshots of the CCTV footage. And of course, we protected. Uh, this is an old little meme thing I put together, but um, the point is that he was in the Dollar General on October 26, 2020, with information that our son was not alive, and his body had been taken over to Juarez. And and we knew at this point, because of the meetings, because of the shaking, because of them keeping us from Richard's unit, because of Michael Ruggiero, Richard's first sergeant, not wanting to talk with us, because which is unheard of, because of Jay Paulin, giving us false information, ludicrous false information, and posting it on like NCO. They were spreading this false information on their NCO social media groups. Okay. Which was a psyop against NCOs, against Richard. And it happens to be, our family is very connected. And we have people very close that are NCOs, right? Our NCOs are active duty NCOs, and this information got back to us. Um, and we knew from everything we had in just in that short amount of time, because they never notified us, and we were, really behind their cover up from the get go, because, we didn't have the access they did, and they didn't tell us. So, so when we got this CCTV footage on that very day with the cashier's testimony, we turned that in and we thought, okay, the FBI has something now, and we're, the military won't be able to say there's no foul play, right? They won't be able to say that. We've got some real evidence that they will do an investigation now, okay? Because you have to remember, they took Richard off the rolls. They were unwilling to help us. They told us we had to bring in the leads in order to help us. I mean, it was just crazy. It was so crazy. So so now we had it, but guess what? They decided to do the opposite of what we thought. They went in absolute cover-up mode, in silent mode. Even the FBI did. And we were so shocked. We were like, "Oh my gosh, the FBI are in on this? The FBI are in on this with the chain of command?" That's what it told us, and they refused to tell us who this man is, right? We did not know who this man is. And so we had to discover it for ourselves, and it took a long time. It took a month to discover who this man is. And can you imagine when we found out who he is? And I called him up on the phone, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm Nadal Baem at Western Frontier Trading. Hi, this is Nadal Baem at Western Frontier Trading." You know, and I'm like, "Hello, my name is Patricia Halliday." And then he just admitted everything. He just admitted everything. Um, it was such a surprise to him. He didn't expect that I would find out who he was and where he was working. And I will tell you how that came to be was a miracle from God. Okay. It was an absolute miracle from God. And one day I will tell you the whole story, how that happened. But what I can tell you, because I don't want to give up how I found out, how we found out, um, but it was really a miracle, absolutely a miracle. It's like finding Vanessa Guillen's remains. Um, and can you imagine how we felt when we found out who he was? And then by that time, we were getting pretty good at getting bios on people, right? And to find out that he is the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado in G3 of 32nd AdCom. You talk about heart palpitations. Talk about the level of treachery that you're face to face with. And we absolutely knew that this was a code red, that it was Richard's chain of command that took his life because the cover up was absolutely confirmed by the knowledge of who Nadal Baem is. And that's before we knew his family relationship with Chavira and Sanchez, Gustavo Sanchez, the um, Texas Ranger that was assigned to our case, and um, all the other connections that he has and his family has, um, and his connection with um, Kuwait and Qatar and, the whole leadership. Um, the cars, all the car deal, the car companies, and there's just so much. He is like so central um, to Richard's case. And they covered it up. We had a meeting at Fort Eustis because I had thought that I discovered who he was. And my husband was like, "Yeah, I think you're right." We were both looking at the whole thing. And we weren't 100%, and they were um held a meeting, a VTC meeting with us there. And I have the aftermath and all of that on Facebook where I recorded it. But they were like, "Oh no, that is not him. That is not him." And we're like, "Well, who is he? You know who he is. Why can't you tell us?" You know, if he's just some guy, no one's afraid of us. I have no record at all, no criminal record at all. Rob doesn't. He's a decorated hero. Um, so and this is our son's case, and he's saying that our son is no longer alive and was trafficked to Juarez. Why can't you tell us who he is? But they wouldn't. They refused to tell us. So it was back to the drawing board and back to trying to figure out who he was. So it wasn't just like a few phone calls. This was a huge effort on our part to find the identity of Nadal Baem, and they did everything they could to try to cover him up. And why am I telling you this? Because Western Frontier Trading, there was a lot of tampering with the evidence. And so they had months to tamper with the evidence. We knew who he was, as far as, that he existed, and they prepared just in case we found out his identity. And Eric Broberg is like the CEO of Western Frontier Trading, the brother of John Broberg. Um, so this is absolutely connected to Nadal Baem, and we know that there was uh, all kinds of. Well, this just confirms that they were stealing things off of Fort Bliss and warehousing them and then selling them to bidders, right? To bidders. And that they were tampering, because this case shows that they were tampering on base as soldiers with documentation to hide their trafficking. Yeah. Um, well, what do we expect in a city full of retired veterans and active duty members having one biggest bases in the U.S.? Well, look, we pay a lot of taxes for law enforcement. And this is why this is so important, because the law enforcement were in on it. They were in on it. And that is the trouble. You can have a lot of veterans on the border, right by a big, beautiful base. But we need law enforcement, and we're very weak on law enforcement. And because we're weak on law enforcement, um, we didn't have any repercussions for what they were doing. So this is another thing that shows you that President Trump is paying attention to the border, that he's paying attention to El Paso, that he's paying attention to our military, that he is taking action for this criminality. And he's leveraging it so much that someone like um, Jared Brown, who normally would never would cover this up. He would cover this up. Um, you might say, "Oh no, he wouldn't." Oh, let me tell you, why hasn't he arrested Leilani Hart? He has everything to arrest Leilani Hart. Everything. Why is she still walking the streets? We just had another arrest. More children are being hurt because we're weak on crime, because we don't go and arrest the likes of Leilani Hart. And Jared Brown has that. Now that he posted this up, I just wonder, it would be nice to be like a fly on the wall, in that office. And when he gets a call from Kash Patel or President Trump or whatever a senior leadership that he has to answer to, I just would love to hear it, because this is getting very close to Richard's case. I mean, this is very attached to Richard's case. So, uh, you know, yeah, it was a very happy day, because it means that they are narrowing down on Richard's case. And now the other information coming out is that President Trump has now refused to sign the US Mexico Canada agreement, right? He's refused to sign it. It was due today. Well, today is July 2nd. It's my birthday right now, July 1st. Um, he was due to sign that agreement, and it would last for 16 more years. But he refused to do it. And he said that he's going to make individual deals, like individual deal with Mexico and an individual deal with Canada. And I thought that that was um, a another very positive um, development towards the repatriation of our son. Because what happened to Richard, number one, Richard is so connected to President Trump because President Trump was targeted and they silenced Richard because they wanted to target President Trump. It was all about that, the 2020 election. It was all about that. And because they had, the infrastructure in place to, even if Richard made a report that they could, just uh, brush it under the table or whitewash it or whatever. But because of the Walmart mass shooting, because of President Trump, they were under scrutiny. And Richard backed up the evidence that needed to be scrutinized, the crimes. And that's why they silenced him. So, um, uh, and we know that President Trump knows how to make a deal. We know that he has leverage now, that they want a deal, right? But he was talking about that the deficit is too high with, and and I'm hoping that he says, and by the way, we want Richard Halliday's remains. No deal until we have our soldiers' remains. Because what they did to Richard cannot be allowed to stand. It just cannot be allowed to stand if you want to make America great again, right? If you want to show strength, uh, to kill a U.S. Army soldier on base and traffic his body and then not hold anyone accountable, I just don't believe that's just not President Trump's nature. And that's why I'm feeling so positive because his nature is patriotism. His nature is for protecting our sons and daughters that volunteer in our military. He is for law enforcement. So I just don't see where what they did to Richard is going to go unanswered. And because of the evidence that we have, we believe they still have Richard's remains. So that is why this is so important. This is really a vicious negotiation that's going on, for the repatriation of our son's remains. That's what this is. So, and I think that President Trump wants that too, because um, Richard confirmed what he was saying was true, that they were sending cartel members, they were sending criminals over that border, and that whoever came over that border need to be vetted, right? They needed to be vetted. We need to screen those that come into our country. So that was really important. What else happened that today? And I always leave this on, but yeah, this just shows Nadal Baem. This was for a $3 million am- ammo deal with I think it was guns too, but it was to the El Paso Police Department, but I believe it was ammo. $3 million, yeah, a contract. So I put up a bunch of pictures. This is John Broberg. This is, of course, Richard's unit was in the Strait of Hormuz. This is, of course, Nadal Baem. This is a modern picture of him right there. I guess he lost some weight or whatever since this all started. And then, of course, that's his daughter, this is Matthew Engelbaum and the federal prosecutor's office. That's his brother-in-law with her. And then that's his wife with the brother, so there is absolutely conflicts of interest here. And of course, you have Montoya that's backing up Maldonado, right? For that's Engelbaum's wife, and Montoya is backing her up, but he's a fake DA. He's fake, right? He's fake. He needs to be removed. So they just play these games, right? Here it just shows the connections are all connected. And this is his divorce from Isis Chivera. And, that we believe that was to protect their properties. Absolutely. Some warehouses, protect their warehouses. So, yeah. President Trump has now told DNI, Bill Pulte, that as DNI, the Director for National Intelligence, that he can declassify whatever he wants. He can just about anything he can declassify. So we're glad because we want Richard's files to be declassified. There are some things that have been classified, and we want them declassified, and we want to be able to read them. So we're hoping that happens. And I covered that. I did want to play when Rob collected Richard's weapon, because it shows you that they knew that Richard was deceased, because they can't just hand over his weapon if he's just missing. Okay. So this is very clear that, and I just want to play it for a few seconds here.
Richard owned a rifle, and what we did is to take it off the hands of the military and get it out of their arms room. I took responsibility for it. So we're ready when you guys are. Oh, we're ready. So we had to come to this gun store here and do the paperwork to, since I'm in a different state than Texas. If we were in Texas, they'd just give it to me.
You got your CAT card on you or Texas ID by any chance?
I'm in Florida, so what they do is they transfer using a federal firearms license dealer. And so, and then I gave them the one I normally use in Florida. And so the weapon will be on the way to Florida, and probably be in Florida before we get back to Florida. But yeah, so that's
that one right
pretty much it.
There should be Golf Tango 0. Well, actually, that's a no.
We'll get some copies for this for you.
Okay.
After we get this back, we'll package it up to you next time we get together. Myself or Colonel Cooper will get that. The game plan would be let you guys go unimpeded. Schedule your rallies, please. You'll go full bore with that, and then I'll adapt my schedule to meet with you based around the rallies.
And usually they're in the evening.
That's right, 1600 to 1800 time frame. Right. So I'll take a look at that, and I'll just get back with you probably as early as or whenever you guys publish it. I'll see it online.
We usually put it out Sunday
night. Beautiful.
The registered mail that came in for him, so.
Okay.
Same to you, sir.
All right, yeah. Thanks for all you do.
Feel free to call me.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
My husband is such a marvelous person because we knew at this time. He's very diplomatic, right? Anyway, I think that is through the whole thing. You can watch it on YouTube. There you go. There's the address for it, and I think it's very telling. Very telling. Leaves me kind of speechless. How evil these people are, because of course the deceiver there, and they're very good at what they do. The deception, they're asymmetric. Sorry, they're asymmetric warfare tactics. They're very good at what they do, and that's why you have to be very careful and be very aware. Without being so skeptical, right, of everybody. It's really it takes a lot of temperament, right? It takes a lot of judgment and not to get bitter, not to get negative, because the law is on our side. God is on our side. When God is on our side and the law is on our side, even though it's infiltrated, right? Even though the judicial system, the legal, it's definitely infiltrated. I'm not saying that, but the law itself is on our side. And when God's on your side like that, you just got to keep going and keep positive and look at what just happened. It's just it's just wonderful that we're getting accountability. We're getting closer and closer. And that these thieves got caught, and that it shows it's the same group is then in the DA's office, right? Because this is what it points to. It points to the DA's office. It points to Montoya. It points to the Western District of Texas, the federal prosecutor's office. It points to the chain of command, the leadership. That's what this does. Not those four guys that, now are found guilty and are admitting that they're guilty of stealing MREs, 200 pallets of MREs. Think about how many I mean, that's wow. And by the way, they were doing that through February to August of 2020, right during that time of Richard. So, yeah, this, as bad as that is, and that's huge, huge bad, right? $1.2 million. And how did they really value that? Did they value that wholesale? I don't know, you know. So, because I have to look that one up, because over 200 pallets, I want to know how much that's worth, you know. And if they estimated it at wholesale, I like it just to make it not sound as bad, right? Um, so yeah, so thank you so much for sticking with us, and I hope that gives you, some comfort that, you know, things are happening behind the scenes, and it's getting closer and closer to relieving El Paso, Fort Bliss from this El Paso cartel, which includes, of course, the El Paso cartel operative, Alejandro de la Vega Foster, who's in alliance with the Sinaloa cartel, the CJNG cartel, the Juarez cartel, which is the La Linea, and also with Maru Campos and her administration. Yeah, absolutely, we're narrowing in on that. And yeah, let's keep moving forward, keep sharing the information, keep driving the truth, so that the truth can get out there. And thank you so much for doing that, because we cannot stop until we narrow it in, get Richard's remains, and hold these people accountable and free El Paso and Fort Bliss and Juarez and Chihuahua from the grip of these thieves, of these cartels. Um, yeah, we need to be freed from that and all their grooming that they do and all the bad intentions that they have. So thank you so much for sharing this information over and over and over again. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. It's very important to get the word out and keep the pressure on. Thank you so much. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing.